It's that time of the year where I update my list of best MMORPGs that you can play for free. Now, there's no shortage of games that you can play for free, but finding the ones that are worth your time, that's another story entirely. I've got some new additions to this year's list, as well as some changes to some old ones that might make them worth revisiting in 2025. Sometimes we want to play a new game, but we don't want to drop $60 on it just to find out it's garbage. If you can relate to that, here are some games that you can get hundreds of hours in without spending a dime. Some of these are completely free to play, some might be considered more free to try, and I'll try to tell you which is which as we go through the list so that you can make an informed decision. First up, we've got a brand new MMO that just launched into early access at the end of 2024, and that is going to be Brighter Shores. So far, it's been pretty well received, and if you like RuneScape or old school RuneScape, there's a solid chance that you'll like Brighter Shores. And that's probably because the guy who made RuneScape also made Brighter Shores. As a result, it's shaping up to be a really solid entry as a RuneScape-like, with a big focus on skilling, capes, and questing. It's point and click to attack, point and click to move, point and click to quest. It's very old school. The game is in early access and a long way from being done. But if you enjoy the old school point and click to move, point and click to attack type of MMOs, then you might really enjoy trying this one out. Next up, we have ALBION Online. This one's a fantasy sandbox MMORPG that definitely offers something a little bit different. It was released in 2017 and is available on PC, Mac, iOS, and Android, and it is of course free to play. ALBION is a full loot PvP MMO, so adrenaline junkies pay attention to this one. It has a decent amount of PvE content if you're into it, and does a fantastic job of mixing PvP events into PvE environments. The game does have some PvE specific zones, but they are quite limited. The game features a pretty massive progression tree where the more you use something, the more you'll level that thing up, whether it's a sword or a bow, and so on. It has a healthy and active population and a very dynamic world that encourages players to head to specific areas and team up or fight to the death. If you're enjoying the game, you can choose to get some quality of life and increase progression speed by subscribing to the game for $12 a month. Just be aware that the subscription is character-based and not account-wide, so be sure to buy it on the character you intend on playing. On the bright side, if you'd like to keep it free to play, you can buy the subscription with in-game currency, though you're gonna have to grind the game like it's your job in order to do so. If you're looking for something really different, that's high stakes and it feels like an MMO and a MOBA merged into one beautiful creature, then Albion Online might be the next thing for you to try. Now, before we continue, what would you do if you could go back to the time of Arthurian legend? Well, you don't need to wonder anymore thanks to King Arthur Legends Rise from Kabam. King Arthur Legends Rise is a new squad RPG game where you'll rebuild the kingdom of Camelot, take on Arthurian quests, forge mythic weapons, and you can do it all on either PC or mobile with crossplay. And best of all, it's just launched. If that sounds interesting, check out this epic trailer.
You were chosen by a power greater than we could have imagined to lead our people against the coming darkness and all that hides within it, and within you.
So transport yourself to Arthurian times by downloading King Arthur Legends Rise using the link in the description below. Start building your Camelot, and be sure to follow Play King Arthur on all socials to learn more. Thanks for listening. Now let's get back to the video. Next up, for you superhero junkies out there, we've got DC Universe Online. This one launched back in 2011 on PC and was just added to PlayStation back in March of 2024. This MMO is still quite active for its age, as it still has new events happening all the time. One big positive that this game has as a free-to-play title is that the game lets you access every bit of content for free. While buying the optional sub does give you some quality of life and things like extra inventory space and faster artifact leveling. The game is pay to win in that it allows you to skip the intense grind of making your character more powerful by paying to do so. If you choose not to pay to skip, then it's going to take you a few months to a year to level up your artifacts, or you can swing by the cash shop instead. The game does have PvP, but the developers stopped focusing on PvP years ago, and it's not really something you'll find much satisfaction in these days. The game makes tons of money off of selling cosmetics, and as a result, you'll have loads of cosmetic customization available to you. However, much of it's going to be locked behind the cash shop. The fact is, there aren't a ton of superhero MMOs still kicking today, so if you're looking for one that's free to play, this could be a good one to check out. Next up, we have Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis, launched back in 2012. This is a surprisingly good-looking MMO thanks to the New Genesis update. The game features an interesting main story quest, but demands that you do quite a bit of grinding in between each chunk of the main story. I think this is because the game's quite light on content, and so it tries to fill it with grinding in between said content. This can wear you down, but if you enjoy a grind, you might still enjoy this game in spite of that. Not only is the amount of content lacking in this game, but so too is the amount of enemy diversity. Fans of the game will complain that it is a little light when it comes to a variety of content, but the one thing they say it has going for it is going to be your cosmetic customization. However, most of that is earned through gacha. So, enjoy that if you want to. By the way, if you enjoy MMOs, be sure to power level that like and subscribe button down there to be kept up to date on all the latest and greatest MMO news. Next up, we've got Throne and Liberty, which just launched here in the West in 2024. This one is one of the newest titles on the list and is actually something that you can play for completely free. The upsides of this MMO include the fact that it's an incredibly high-quality, polished MMO made by a AAA developer, NCSoft. It's got great movement abilities that allow you to shapeshift to get around the map as a four-legged animal or a bird. It's also got a grappling hook to make getting around fun as well. The main story quest is decent but short, and that's where the downsides start to come in. This game is light on PvE content, as it is first and foremost a PvP MMO. It's also a very pay-to-win MMO. The auction house uses the same currency as the cash shop. This is an MMO that had so much potential, but I fear it's not going to live up to it. And due to its hyper-aggressive monetization, it's looking like it's going to have a fairly short life, where it ends up only being played by a very niche group of players. If you prefer PvP-focused MMOs and you don't mind fighting against whales, Throne and Liberty is probably one of the better options out there for you. It's definitely one of the highest quality MMOs on the list, and it can be played for completely free. Next up, we've got Lost Ark, which launched back in 2019 in Korea and launched in 2022 here in the West. Lost Ark is available on PC, and unlike many of the free-to-play options, Lost Ark will let you play the entire game for free. Now, as usually is the case with games that you can play for completely free, the cash shop is filled to the brim with pay-to-win, but as far as completely free-to-play MMOs go, not many can currently compete with this behemoth in terms of the amount of quality content that you have access to for completely free. The game has an optional sub that is basically a pay-to-advance faster while getting a little quality of life. You can purchase this subscription with in-game currency if you wish to try to go that route. This game does not feature the trinity of tank, healer, and DPS, but instead relies on every player to be responsible for themselves, though there is a class that somewhat feels like a tank and some others that kind of feel like a healer. A lot like Throne and Liberty, Lost Ark has been bleeding players, and it's been bleeding them fast. But for now, it still has enough people for you to easily find someone to play with. If you do play for free, making progress at a decent speed in late game will require you to create alts to do dailies and then funnel those materials to your main. If you're okay with progressing a little slower or making alts to farm materials, then you can play this entire game without spending a dime. So if you're looking for an isometric MMORPG that feels a little bit like Diablo, BDO, and a Las Vegas casino had a child, then maybe it's the choice for you. Next up, we have old school RuneScape, which technically launched in 2013, but it's a version of a game that launched in 2001. If that's confusing, don't worry about it, doesn't matter. You can play the base game of RuneScape for free on PC, Mac, and mobile. The game does feature an optional monthly sub of $11 per month, and if you'd rather, you can grind out in-game currency to buy your subscription to further avoid needing to spend real-life cash on the game. So this is an MMO that you can play 100% of the base game for free without spending a dime, but it would require a lot of grinding in-game currency to buy the game sub, which would then unlock the rest of the game. The free-to-play version of the game consists of a decent amount of content, but if you enjoy the game, the sub will unlock a boatload of expansion content that will increase the game size tenfold. That's not to say that the base game is small, it's just that they've been adding content to it for a long time. Once again, old school RuneScape does not feature the trinity of tank, healer, and DPS, but instead has more of a a rock, paper, scissors approach where melee, ranged, and magic classes are strong against one, weak against another. Old school RuneScape is one of the largest MMOs in the world, thanks in large part to its accessibility and unique position in the category, as it's still actively supported by the devs today. The game can be played for free, and all of the additional content can be unlocked with a sub, which can be purchased with in-game currency. So once again, the entire game can theoretically be enjoyed for free if you're willing to grind out the gold necessary to buy the old school RuneScape sub, known as a bond. If you want an MMO where you level up something by doing that thing, and your PC hasn't been upgraded since 2007, old school RuneScape might be the perfect MMO for you. Next up, we have Neverwinter, an action combat MMO released back in 2013. It's available on Windows, Xbox, and PlayStation. It's not cross-platform though, so you and your friends need to purchase the game on the same platform to play together. It features voice-acted quests and really solid combat. This is another MMO where you can play the entire game for free. No content is locked behind purchases or subscription. The game allows you to spend money to speed up your progress and to solve problems that it created so that it could sell you the solution. Your typical free-to-play cash shop affairs. This game is an official Dungeons and Dragons game, so it takes place inside of that world. The endgame is known for being an astronomical grind, and some would say it's almost never ending. Fortunately for new players, there are a lot of catch-up mechanics that now help new players get caught up to the players who have been grinding endlessly for years. If you want a Dungeons & Dragons MMO that can be played for completely free, then maybe check out Neverwinter. Next up, we have Guild Wars 2, launched in 2012, and it's definitely one of the best MMOs on this list, but it's also one where you can only play the base game for free, and then you're going to need to spend money to access the expansion content. Guild Wars 2 originally launched in 2012 and is available on PC. It will let you play the first 80 levels for free, including all job stories and base game zones. This can easily work out to hundreds of hours of content. The game does not require a sub and doesn't even have an optional sub. If you enjoy the game, you can choose to buy the expansions to unlock some of the game's newest and coolest zones and features. Guild Wars 2 does not feature your typical trinity of tank, damage dealer, and healer, but it does allow players to build towards those roles if they want to. One strength of Guild Wars 2 definitely lies in its fully voice-acted main story, in which not only are the NPCs you interact with voice-acted, but so is your character. This makes for a really immersive story experience that a lot of MMOs can rival. One of the strengths of Guild Wars 2 is definitely its incredible mount and glider system. It's pretty much universally accepted that Guild Wars 2 does mounts better than any other MMO out there. It has mounts that can dive underwater, mounts that can fly through the sky, and mounts that can jump really high, or mounts that can roll on the ground really fast. Should you decide you enjoy the base game, I definitely recommend purchasing the expansions to take advantage of the amazing mounts and gliders, though they did make it so that you can now have access to the first mount as part of the base game, so that's nice. The monetization is incredibly fair, as it is buy once and play forever with absolutely no subscription. And since it doesn't even have an optional subscription, you're not punished for not subscribing in this game like you are in a lot of games that have an optional subscription. One nice thing about this game is you can choose to use your in-game currency to purchase cash shop cosmetics. Guild Wars 2 is still very actively supported by its developers with new expansions every year. If you're looking for a really high quality MMO that's free to play and not pay to win, then Guild Wars 2 is probably your best bet. Next up, we have an MMO Lite, and this one's going to be WARFRAME, launched back in 2013. Available on PC, Xbox, PlayStation, and Switch. While WARFRAME isn't exactly what I would call your typical MMO, it does feature a lot of MMO elements such as exploration, open world play, group play, quests, classes, and weapon and gear progression that might make it really easy for a fan of MMOs to enjoy. And this one is actually a really high quality, free-to-play game with a massive player base. So I'm going to slide it into the list again just in case you want to try it. WARFRAME is completely free to play. Not only do you not have to buy it, there is no subscription. In this game, you can travel the galaxy and unlock a spaceship that will act as your hub. After that, you'll unlock and upgrade more WARFRAMEs as you play the game. There are many WARFRAMEs in this game, and each one acts like a new class might in a traditional MMO. The game does not feature the trinity of tank, healer, and DPS, but instead lots of classes that can kill lots of things really well. The story in this game is pretty good, but where it excels is the fluid and fast-paced combat. It just feels amazing. As mentioned, it has an incredibly healthy population with tens of thousands of players playing at any minute. and it's still regularly receiving new expansions. If you want to jump from planet to planet doing space ninja things, if you want to enjoy some of the smoothest feeling combat in any of the games on this list, and if you're burned out on the typical MMO formula, then Warframe might be the next game for you to try. Next up, we have EVE Online, launched all the way back in 2003, available on PC and Mac. This one can be played for free, but it does offer a sub to unlock some quality of life options, as well as the ability to unlock some of the spaceships sooner. Unfortunately, this optional sub is the most expensive one on the list at $20 a month. It's going to be pretty steep for a lot of players. You can purchase your sub with in-game currency if you want to try to go that route, but that's going to take a lot of grinding. EVE Online is more of a space exploration and spaceship building simulator, so you will use fleets instead of your typical tank, healer, and DPS setup in other MMOs. In EVE Online, players form their own alliances and then battle for control of the most valuable portions of the universe. When your ship is destroyed, it does not simply respawn, you'll need to build it again. This keeps the stakes high in these battles and the adrenaline flowing. Despite its age, EVE Online is still fairly popular, thanks to the fact that there's still nothing else out there like it. The game is still actively supported by its devs, which means there's plenty of new and veteran players alike. If you're looking for a spaceship building simulator with the potential to experience massive space battles, then EVE Online might be the next game for you to try out. Next up, we have Star Wars: The Old Republic, launched back in 2011. This is a great game, but it is starting to show its age. It's available on PC, and it's free to play the base game and all 8 of its class stories. These class stories are all unique, and each one has multiple different endings that you can unlock based on the decisions you make as you play through it. This is one of the coolest features of this game. You can play as a healer or a tank, though most content won't really require either of those. While SWTOR does have group content, today it seems the best way to look at SWTOR is as a single-player story adventure. To that end, it does an excellent job. It is completely voice acted, and you're able to make meaningful and impactful decisions along the way. The decisions you make can and will determine the ending that you unlock, with up to 3 different endings for each class. You can choose to subscribe to the game for $15 a month if you want to, and doing so for even just 1 month will unlock all of the zones in the entire game permanently. So if you find yourself enjoying the game, it might be worth it to subscribe for 1 month and then cancel that subscription. So basically, you've got an incredible base game story experience for free, and if you want to unlock everything else, you're looking at $15 one time. You can cancel that sub, but you will retain access to every ounce of the game, and the game becomes completely free to play again. It's worth mentioning that Star Wars: The Old Republic was handed off to a new developer, so future content additions might be lacking compared to years past. If you're craving a great story experience, or perhaps some Star Wars, or perhaps just killing things with lightsabers, then maybe Star Wars: The Old Republic is the next MMO for you to try. Next up, we have Lord of the Rings Online, which launched with a subscription in 2007, then went free to play in 2010. Lord of the Rings Online is a classic theme park MMO. It's got a respectable Lord of the Rings inspired story with some really solid voice acting. Like many free-to-play MMOs, it's not massively popular, but it's alive enough to enjoy it. It's worth noting that in order to have access to all of the races and all of the classes in this game, you will need to spend some money. You can also choose to sub for $15 a month in order to get things like inventory space and extra quests. If you want a fun trip down nostalgia lane, or perhaps a free Lord of the Rings story, then this might be a great game for you to check out. Next up, we have Blade & Soul, an action combat MMO released in 2014. Combat has always felt good in Blade & Soul, but it was a bit grindy and pay to win for Western audiences, greatly limiting its popularity outside of the East. This game hasn't aged super gracefully, and it's quite pay to win now. There's not a ton of people playing this one these days, and it's likely going to be difficult to find others to play with. That said, it is free to play, it's a decent MMO, and it could be fun to play for a week or two the next time you're looking for something free to play. Next up, we have MapleStory, a kind of unique 2D side-scrolling MMO. This is one of those games that existed for roughly 20 years and has been incredibly popular for much of its life. It's one of the MMOs on this list that can be enjoyed for completely free, although it definitely pushes you to spend money. As a result, it's chock full of microtransactions. MapleStory has a ton of classes to try, which helps provide variety to the incredible grind that it offers. If you're in the mood for killing screenfuls of enemies in a 2D side-scrolling MMO, then this might be one worth checking out. Next up, we have Dungeons & Dragons Online, which launched in 2006. This is an MMO that wasn't bad, but it definitely struggled to escape the crushing shadow of Blizzard's World of Warcraft when it launched. DCUO lets you play most classes for free, with some locked behind purchase. The game has been out for a long time, so it's got a ton of content, but it's also going to feel pretty old. As the name would suggest, it features dungeons, and lots of them, and I'd say that it does dungeons better than a lot of MMOs out there, despite its age. If you're craving a really classic MMO experience that you can enjoy without spending a dime, then Dungeons & Dragons Online is definitely one worth checking out. As promised, all of the games can be played for hundreds of hours for free, and hopefully you found one that you want to try. Special thank you to all my YouTube members for keeping the channel going. To find out how to become a channel member, check out the link in the description below. Or if you want to help for free, just hit that subscribe or like button, or leave a comment. I'd love to know which MMO you think I should have added to this list that I didn't, and I'd love to know which MMO you're most excited to play. Thanks for watching, and if you made it this far, hopefully you enjoyed this video. So if you're not sure what to do next, check out one of these MMO videos popping up on screen right now. Hope to see you in the next one.